We are following breaking news in a case of a popular dentist reported missing in Georgia.
I literally found her and they tried to run from me.
If you thought this case was over when Dr. Melanie Nadler Litt was spotted with a strange man talking to police yesterday, prompting them to cancel the missing persons alert, think again. Her husband, it appears, just put an urgent call for help out on social media saying his wife is not safe. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Stewart. We're following a twist in a story that really was headline news in Atlanta over the weekend. A popular dentist went missing, and then she was found in the company of a strange man. And now her husband is saying that strange man is not someone that she should be with, and she's not safe. This is Dr. Melanie Nadler Litt. She is a married mom and a popular dentist. She lives in Marietta, Georgia, which is a big suburb just outside of Atlanta. Her family reported her missing on Tuesday last week when she didn't show up for work at her office in Dallas, Georgia, also in the Atlanta metro area. Now, police went to her house, and there they found her phone, but her car was gone, and that car was later discovered abandoned. Now, friends said this was not like Dr. Nadler Litt to do this. Her husband, Leslie, was out of town at the time visiting their adult son who's in college. Now, what made this story even more odd was that Nadler Litt was supposed to head out on what seems like a dream vacation with her husband when he got back from that college trip. The two of them were slated on Wednesday, the day after she went missing, to head to Japan together. It's important to note that Cobb County police said they never thought that this was anything more than a missing persons case. They never said anything about foul play, but the search did continue. They put out flyers with her face on it. Her name was shared across social media, and it appeared that this story was over, and over in a happy way, on Sunday, because Dr. Nadler Litt was reportedly found safe. Now, there's a man who on Facebook goes by Billy Robertson, and he called 911 saying he spotted Dr. Nadler Litt with a man outside of a mall in Marietta.
I literally found her and they tried to run from me. This guy right here tried to run from me. And I called the police. I found her, tried to talk to her. She's really scared of her husband, apparently. So,
hey, she said leave.
I have the right to record, so if they want to do that, that's fine.
That's the Facebook video. It's been shared across the internet. Local television stations are also airing it in Atlanta. And you see the man who Dr. Nadler Litt is with telling Robertson to stop recording and to leave. Now, this video has been shared again. It's across the internet. Everybody's seeing it. And the question is at this point, who is the man in that video? We don't know. We do know, though, it is not her husband who goes by the name Leslie. Now, Robertson posted that video on Facebook of Nadler Litt, and he said that she seemed scared and the man that she was with grabbed her when he confronted them. Robertson says he then called 911, and that led to the video that you just saw. It's unclear what Nadler Litt and that man told police when they arrived. But later that day, Cobb County police said the dentist was located safe and the BOLO alert for her was canceled. Police at that point said they weren't releasing more information, and that was really out of respect to Dr. Nadler Litt. She's an adult and it is a private matter. And that seemed to wrap up the case. Many people were posting on the doctor's wall on Facebook saying that they were glad that she was safe and that they were concerned when she had gone missing for 5 days. But then on Monday, the bombshell twist. Nadler Litt's husband, Leslie, took to her Facebook and his Facebook and shared this post. It reads, quote, "This is Leslie. Melanie is not safe," in capital letters. She was observed being dragged around a market by the person she is with. She is being manipulated and controlled. When confronted by the gentleman who spotted them because she was his dentist, the guy she was with started yelling at him. She is so scared of the person she is with. She was not forthright with police. He was charged with beating one of his wives. She is in a mental health crisis and needs professional help intervention immediately. The police do not know her and did not do her any justice whatsoever and let them both leave. If anyone sees her, please do not let her leave and call 988 and share her location. Now, again, it is unclear who the man is, who you see with Dr. Nadler Litt in that video, but it appears that her husband knows who that man is. Now, it's unclear whether that's because police told him or because he knew him from a previous relationship. We also don't know anything about Dr. Nadler Litt's mental health history. We have reached out to Cobb County Police for more information. Joining us now to talk about this and some of the new twists in this story is former Sheriff's Deputy Chad Ayers. Always great to have you on Law and Crime. It's, kind of felt like the story was over when she was found safe. It was great news, that she is safe. But then what do you make of what we're reading on this Facebook post?
It's kind of crazy, Chris. On Thursday, I think this was sent actually in my family group chat. My dad's a dentist, and my brother's in the dental world, things like that. So obviously, they were just talking about it. And first and foremost, as soon as I read it, obviously, I think anybody naturally would go to worst case scenario. In fact, I think it was actually my mom that says this is going to end up being a Dateline episode at some point. I just feel it. It just had all those signs of some type of domestic situation gone bad. That's coming from a former law enforcement officer myself. And so obviously then when we get the news that she's been located, law enforcement's very vague on that. We want to respect their privacy. But then obviously, hopefully we can get into some of the turn of events that have happened on some social media today, Chris. But, at the end of let's be honest, no matter what's going on, at least we know that she is okay and she is safe. Or at least we feel like she is.
Right, because as much as people, it's great that she's safe, and there's always going to be this mystery of what happened since it grabbed people's attention. But from a law enforcement perspective, and we don't know what she said to those the officers and when she was with this man outside the mall in Marietta, but I guess what can police do in this situation if she's safe and she's an adult? So it's like if she's with this person, for as odd as it is, like what do you do if you're a law enforcement member looking into this case?
Yeah, well, Chris, I think let's back up a little bit if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
How do we handle initial investigations when it comes to missing people, right? And something as high profile as this. Look, missing reports come in daily to agencies across this country. Majority of the time, it is someone who's battling some type of substance abuse problem. They have a drug or alcohol problem. They're out on a bender. They go out. They're found, several days later in some crack motel. Just to be honest with you, This is kind of what it turns out to be most of the time. But what you want to do is start kind of building that timeline to begin with. The last time she was seen utilizing technology, Ring doorbell, cell phone tracking, the features, the computer systems in cars, OnStar, if they have that to where we can locate vehicles. So we want to use all those resources. Then we're going to start kind of eliminating suspects, I would say. So obviously in a situation like this, we always start with who's closest with these people, husband, wives, family members, talking to friends and family, figuring out, was there any type of marital issues going on in the home? Were there any type of fights recently? Once we can, eliminate people as a suspect, then the investigation takes a different turn. Are we dealing with an abduction? Are we dealing with someone who just, it almost brings me back to that runaway bride case from years and years ago, where I think the bride kind of got cold feet and just went and disappeared. So, but on a situation once, that gentleman who was a patient of hers of all things sees her at the mall in the parking lot, does the right thing, confronts her, calls 911. Obviously, law enforcement's going to do their due diligence. They're going to go in, they're going to separate the parties, separate her from the person that she was found with, and try to see if stories are adding up. Obviously, it sounds like we have not had any reporting back from law enforcement as to how those conversations went, but hopefully they did their due diligence, and in doing so, if they determined, like you said, she has left her home on her own free will, whether or not she just needs a break, a separation, she's found someone else, I don't know. These are all questions that you would have. There's really nothing. Look, a grown adult can leave their home and nothing can be said. There's no legal ramifications, but hopefully they did, do their due diligence. Obviously, if she's in some type of serious mental health crisis where she is a threat or a danger to herself or others, well, then maybe the family would, work on getting her committed to a facility.
Because I wouldn't say I was a surprise, but it's, the call is canceled, and then you see the husband saying like, oh my God, like it seems like for him personally, he's putting out this call that she's missing again. And we've reached out to police. We're kind of waiting for a comment to come back. I guess looking at her too, because I'm trying to like be, I don't know what was going on in her personal life. We know that she was going to go to Japan with her husband the day after she went missing. It seemed like this dream vacation that they were going to be on. In your experience, and you've seen so many missing persons cases because so many of them do come in, I mean, how often is it like the family would never have expected this person to do this? And it's someone who seems like they have everything together. And then maybe there is this some sort of mental break that happens for whatever reason. And the person decides to, maybe it's run off with someone, and maybe they just end up being in the company of someone else. Because this one just seems bizarre, because it does on the surface. You feel like this is someone who had it all together. Everything seemed fine, son in college, husband's away, going on this big trip. And then she's at a mall 5 days later with someone who nobody knows.
Yeah, I would say that the reason I think this got so much media attention is because it was unique. We do not see this in missing person cases very often. It's, every few years, I feel like one of these cases kind of gets highlighted in the news. And then for the husband to come out now and say, no, she's still missing, this isn't right. I don't want to, I want law enforcement to allow them to do their full investigation. But as an outsider now, it was someone with this background. I would say that to me, it seems like there was some type of extramarital affair that's possibly going on, and she decided to run off with this person. And the husband's upset about it. Maybe she is battling a mental health crisis and he doesn't, and he feels like that is contributing to her wanting to step out and tell police she's okay, and really she's not. Who knows? Listen, Chris, doctors, dentists, lawyers, medical they're not immune to substance abuse issues either. So let's not rule this out. Anything's on the table right now. And we just have to sit back and trust that law enforcement's doing their job and doing their due diligence to figure out exactly what took place and if she is currently, if she is truly in danger. I'll be honest, there's not a cop in America, I would say, that if they felt like she was in, danger, they would allow her to stay there. They would have intervened in some form or fashion.
So they put out, it was on Tuesday, the Be on the Lookout goes out because she didn't show up for work. You find the cell phone at the house, the car is gone. And then she's located. Okay, the bolo is canceled. Now you have the husband saying she's definitely in crisis. She's missing again. I mean, what would it take for law enforcement to then reopen the investigation? Because you can't keep tabs on someone if you felt like she was safe in this moment and then she goes off and then maybe the husband can't find her. Like, what would it take to become a missing persons case again?
I'd say, that's a tricky question. There would have to be some type of new information discovered and evidence showing that she truly is being held against her will or being manipulated or being fed drugs. Listen, we see this a lot, honestly, in some of these sex trafficking, human trafficking type cases where, a guy's portraying, hey, do you want to make some money? All you're going to do is dance, and come to find out they start feeding these underage girls drugs or of age people. They're basically preying on their addiction, and they are just feeding them dope to keep doing what they're doing, the illicit activity. I'm not saying that's exactly what it is, but if she is being manipulated by someone, I do believe that law enforcement would get to the end of it. They are not in there's too much liability to sit back here and not do anything. In reading some of these posts that Leslie is posting, the husband, on her social media page, again, I want to wait on the investigation. I want to be very careful here, but it seems to me like he's just a upset husband right now, that maybe the wife has left him and this is his way of trying to get her back or to convince friends and family to maybe talk to her and convince her to come back. It is, but it's tricky. It's tricky that they allowed her to stay with this guy. So that, like I said, that tells me that they did not see any imminent danger that she was in.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, in whatever's been going on, and we don't know what was going on in their marriage, and I'm sure it's unfortunate, especially for them, if you're having trouble in your marriage and then suddenly it becomes a national news story. Nobody would want that. But at the same time, I think of her being with this guy, and it's, her story was the story in Atlanta for the last several days. I mean, this is one of the biggest cities in the country, and yet they were still off together. It wasn't like it was, hey, actually, I'm not missing. This is who I'm with, and this was going on. And I'm sure even if she had called, like if nothing was going on and that's what it was, like if she called police and she told police that, I don't think police would have told the world that on Facebook. It would have been, this has been canceled. She's been found safe. Thank you. What do you make of just, I'm sure she had to have known that this was a big story and everybody was looking for her, even if she didn't want, say, her husband to find her.
No, it's going to be interesting. Several things that we need to sit back and wait on. Number one, I want to see the body cam footage from the officers that made contact with her. I'm going to go not just to the husband, but I would probably bypass, I might show him that footage, but I also want to go to any sisters, mom, dad, and her children and bring them in and possibly show them this footage and say, do you feel like your mom is acting normal? Is this the way she typically acts? Also, we need to figure out the name of this gentleman that she was found with, right? And then we cross-reference that. Were they friends on social media? Did they go to high school together? What is the relationship between who she was with? And that tells me, since law enforcement's being tight, kind of lipped about this, tells me this is probably more of a family personal issue than there was any type of crime, and they just don't want to put family business out there.
Yeah, and looking at the post from her husband, just the line where he says something along the lines of, or it was, quote, he was charged with beating one of his wives. So I would assume that either the husband was told by police who the man was or he knew him. So we don't know what the relationship is, at this point. So that could open the door to that.
Well, not just Chris, not just that. I think it's important too that many times, spouses, we also need to be monitoring this husband too.
Yeah.
To not get ticked off and so angry and pissed off that he goes and does something dumb to this guy if he finds out where they're staying at.
Well, and what's like the amount of, because listen, Cobb County, where this is taking place, I mean, that's a busy police department. They have a lot of stuff to handle every single day beyond this case. What type of resources would a department like this at this point, even though it is getting a lot of attention, what would they put into where we are at this point, you would think, in this investigation?
I mean, I'll be honest, it seems to me like the investigation's probably over with at this point. If it was still an ongoing investigation, they would, and they felt like she was, her life was in jeopardy or she was being held against her will, they would have never let her leave and lose, control of her. Personally, I think the investigation's probably over with right now, and they are saying this is a personal family issue and y'all need to work that out. I mean, it's going to be hard to convince me that there is still an ongoing investigation in Cobb County. Look, you're right. Cobb County is it's 2 hours from where I am and right down the road from where you are. I mean, it's just, these are busy agencies. Yes, they're going to take it serious, and they did take it serious. But if there's nothing there, there's nothing there.
And would this be something where a family could, if they wanted to, this is where like a private investigator would come in and then get involved? How does that, like for you, when you were a sheriff's deputy, and say there was a family in a situation like this, they hire a private investigator. I mean, is that someone who then calls you and tries to present information? I mean, how often are you getting calls from people like that in cases like this where maybe there's not something criminal that happened?
Yeah, obviously the private investigator is going to be used to document, gather photos, video evidence of if it is some type of extramarital affair to present to family court or whoever they go to in Georgia for divorce proceedings. But also, if this private investigator saw some type of battery or assault on her, hopefully they would have the wherewithal to pick up the phone and call 911 and say, hey, listen, this isn't as it seems. Here's some documentation, here's some footage of what I obtained, them walking, into an apartment, into a hotel. He's grabbing her by the arm. Now we've kind of started to build a different, image here, but they would strictly be used just for documentation purposes for any type of, future court proceedings.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out and what Cobb County police say. It very well could be, personal family situations that have now spilled over into the public realm, which, often we end up talking about those cases. But again, you just hope that she is safe. She was safe yesterday, which was the good news on this story. We'll see what happens next. Chad Ayers, it's always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Chris. See you again soon.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.